Now that we've spent a good amount of time talking about the employee class, I want to design an object hierarchy that we're going to then implement in Java. So here's how it'll work. We're going to have the root, so to speak, employee class that has the attributes name and age. Okay? So then this is going to be extended by two other types of classes, or rather just two other classes. Okay, we're going to have a class called salary employee, and then we're going to have hourly employee. Okay, so as you might expect, the only difference is that salary employees will have an annual salary, and then hourly employees have an hourly rate. Okay, so in addition to this, employees also have a way of working. Okay, so what this means is that employee will have a method called work, and the default implementation will just say that name plus name with their age in parenthesized is working. Okay, name age is working with a period. Okay, and then salary employee and hourly employee will have different ways of working as well. Okay, so salary employee will say that, or its work method will be overridden to return the name is making annual per year working. Okay, so it'll return a string saying the name with the age is making some number, is making $, this variable per year working. Hourly rate will be something similar, except it'll say name age is making $, hourly rate per hour working. Okay, so not very complicated. Okay, then these two classes will each be implemented or each be extended by another class. So salary employee will be a type of, or rather, there will be a class called manager, which extends salary employee. So managers are salaried employees, and inside of them they contain a list of hourly employees. Okay, so managers will manage a list of mentees. Okay, so that's how that works. And then the there will be one subclass of hourly rate of hourly employee, and we'll call that sales associate. Okay, and they will have a variable, let's say sales target, and then sales current. Okay, no, you can't really see that because of the webcam, but this is what it looks like. So we'll create 4 classes, or rather we'll create 3, and we'll just amend how these two work. Okay, so let's get to it. And my cat is going crazy. So let's see what we need to do. So employee is almost the same. The only difference is that we need to add the string work method that returns, and we'll just use string.format because I feel like it. It will say %s %d is working. So this dot name, this dot age. Okay, so very straightforward. Now we will have, or will now have, hourly employee override the work method. So string work. Now we do not need to make this public because you only need to override methods as public if they come from an interface. Okay, but we define this method as non-public, so we don't have to make it public. Okay, now we can make it public, but we don't have to make it public. Okay, but you also cannot make it private. So if you have a method from a superclass inside of a subclass, you can make it broader by making it public, but you cannot make it private. Okay, so if it's not already if it's not private, then you can access it in the subclass, and that's sort of how these methods are supposed to work. Okay, so what did we say we wanted to do for hourly employee? We said we wanted to do return string.format. Let's see. So the name, age is making. Let's say we're going to float to 2 decimal places per hour working. Okay, so we'll do this dot get name, this dot get age, and this dot hourly rate. Now, remember, we have to use the getters we have to use the getters for name and age because we're not in the employee class. Those variables, those instance variables, are private in the employee class. So if we want to access them, we have to get them through the getters, okay? But we can access hourly rate just fine because we're inside of that class, okay? Let's now do salary employee. It also extends employee, and it has a field, we'll call it salary. The constructor is the same as hourly employee, just a different name, in fact. So we'll call the superclass with the name and the age, and then we'll set the salary equal to the salary. We could override dot equals, I'm just not going to, but we will override the work method to do what we want to do. Now remember, in the previous video we talked about overriding dot equals, and we said that we can call the superclass version of the method inside of the method itself. And indeed we could do that here, but there's no real point because the messages that we define are so unique to that class that there's no need to invoke like super.work, for example. But we could do that, and there's nothing, I guess, wrong with that. At least syntactically, there's nothing wrong with that. But notice one thing, that if we were to do this, so I forgot to mention this in the last video, but let's say that we did this. What do you think would happen if we tried to compare this object against other employee like this? So I'll leave that to you as an exercise to think about. But let's get back to salary employee. So we're going to return string.format. So %s, %d is working, making, %.2f, per year working. Okay, so this dot get name, this dot get age, and this dot salary. Okay, and we'll also make a getter for the salary. So get salary, return this dot salary. Okay, and now let's do the two subclasses of hourly and salary respectively. So let's do sales associate first. So this extends hourly employee, and it will receive a private int sales target and a private int current sales. And then the constructor will have the most parameters that we've seen yet. So we'll do string name, int age, double hourly rate, double or int sales target, and int current sales. Okay. Now, how do you think we're going to call the superclass constructor? Well, we had better do super, and then we can just call, as IntelliJ nicely points out, we can call it by passing the name, the age, and the hourly rate. Okay. Sorry about that. My cat is going crazy, as he will probably jump down, and I'll have to make another cut. So, yeah, we can call the superclass constructor by just passing the necessary values. Now notice again that, or rather just notice that these names don't have to be the same as they are in the superclass because they're just parameter names anyway. They don't matter at all, in fact. Okay. So now what we can do is just assign this to be sale, or assign this over like that. And then we could make the getters and setters, but we won't. We'll just make a method called boolean has met target, and it'll just say return the stock current sales is greater than or equal to the sales target. Okay, but we also need to override the the work method. So, as I expected, my cat did jump down in front of me. Okay, so we need to override the work method, or rather we will override it. We don't need to. But what we're going to do is we're just going to say that a sales associate works by the same as how an hourly employee works, but in addition to that, we're just going to output true or false whether or not it has met the sales target. So we'll do return. So how do we call the superclass's method? So we'll do super.work plus, and then maybe just a comma, and then we'll just append onto it has met target. Okay? Just something really simple. Okay? Now, manager is a little bit more interesting, because what we're going to do is it's going to extend the salary employee class, and it will have a list of hourly employees that we'll just call mentees. Okay, so the people that the manager mentors. Okay, so it will receive the name, the age, and the salary, but it will not receive anything else. So we'll just pass these up to the superclass constructor as so. Okay, but let's say that we want to add a mentee to this manager. What we can do is just write a method, add mentee. We'll set it as received an hourly employee EMP, and then we'll add it to the list of mentees. Okay, and we'll say that it works by doing. Let's say that it does something similar to the hourly and salary employee classes, except it will return the name, and it will just say that they are managing the employees in the mentees list. Okay, so that means that we'll need to do this .mentees, but notice that there we go. Notice that this means that we'll actually need to override the toString method in each of these classes. Okay, or at least in hourly employee and sales associate. But for now, we're not going to do that. I'll just show you what that might look like. But I'll leave it as an exercise to you to override the toString method in each one of these classes in one way or another. It doesn't matter how you do it. It's just something that maybe you should do. Okay? So now let's write some... so again, we're not going to write actual tests for this. We'll just create a main method and then create some classes here. So let's create a manager, and we'll say that their name is Joe. They are 48, and they make $125,000 a year. Let's let's create an hourly employee equals new sales associate, and okay. So let's see. Yeah, so we'll make it a sales associate instead, because we want to be able to call the has met target method easily. Okay, so now let's do this. So we'll create a sales associate named Jack. He'll be 22 or 21, whatever, and he will make $13.50 an hour. And now let's add. Oh wait, we forgot the target. So he needs to make, let's say, 1,000. Then he's sold 500. So now let's add this as a mentee to the manager. So notice that this works just fine because E1 is a kind of hourly employee, or at least sales associate is a kind of employee, or is a kind of hourly employee, which is in turn a kind of employee. So let's see how this looks. So let's output m1.work, and it should say that Joe, let's see, what did I say? Joe is managing this list of mentees. So actually this would not work. This would need to be get name is managing this list of employees. Okay, so let's run this, and we should get that, and it should be, it's null. Okay, that's because I forgot to actually instantiate the Mentees array list in the constructor. Okay, now let's run it. There we go. So the reason why it's outputting this hash code is because we did not override the toString method inside of sales associate. But that's, like I said, very easy to do. Okay, and we could output, let's see, e1.work, and this should say that Jack is 21 and makes $13.50 an hour, and that he has not met the sales target as of yet, so it should be false. Okay, so I just realized this looks a little bit ugly, so we can get rid of the comma there, and we'll just make it a space. Okay, so hopefully you now understand this idea of, inheritance and how to extend classes and add functionality to other to subclasses from superclasses. Okay, so object-oriented programming and inheritance are absolutely crucial to understanding how Java works. You're going to be, if you're writing Java, you're going to be extending classes, implementing interfaces and stuff all the time. So making sure you understand this is absolutely crucial. Okay? And in class, we'll go over an example of, using animals, which is like the de facto example of doing object-oriented programming. But I made the video with this example because I think it's more practical than the animal example.